guys, how's everyone doing? This is the Squats and Sushi podcast.
Beyond
I'm
Barbells.
sure you
Is that
guys know
it?
I'm sure you guys know who we are, but just for those who don't, my name is Sammy Simmons.
And my name is Annabel DaSilva.
And we decided to start this podcast because we've been doing some Instagram lives lately.
We've done about like 4 of them, 5.
Yeah. And we've been doing them every week, and a lot of people have messaged us saying like, oh, I couldn't join the live.
Or you just get saved for 24 hours and they miss out on it. So we thought that this would be a brilliant idea.
Exactly. And we kind of want to mix your guys' questions as well as topics that we feel would be beneficial for people just generally.
Right.
And we kind of wanted to emphasize that there are lots of educational podcasts out there. Obviously, Annabelle and I, we're not doctors or, you know, anyone like that. But we want to talk about our experiences, you know, throughout our fitness journeys and
have this more as like a casual talk through different pointers.
Yeah. And we will always be recording them in this style on YouTube. So for those who are listening on iTunes or Castbox, you can watch us on YouTube. And yeah, so this is just like an informal type podcast, I guess.
Yes.
So we thought we'd kick things off for those who don't really know about the background of Annabelle and I. We're going to talk about how did we first get into fitness and bodybuilding. I think this is a really common question that people get asked.
Should I start?
Yes, you should.
Okay. Okay. So how did we get into fitness/bodybuilding? Long story short. So I was into modeling, right? Started modeling when I was 16 years old. Traveled all over Asia doing that. And the goal there was just to be as small as possible. Agencies would always measure me, like bust, hip, waist, and hips, and it had to be within certain numbers. And if it wasn't, then we just get screwed for it. And they would cut our pocket money. Pocket money is like the money that we would get on a weekly basis to survive.
Wow.
You know this? Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's crazy. If I was a kilo above, I get half of my pocket money. And it sucks because it's like you use that money for transportation to get to castings, to meet clients, and for your food. And I couldn't tell my parents that my money was getting cut because I wasn't skinny enough, because they would have said, come back home, Annabelle, we told you so. And I didn't want that. So there was always this pressure to be very, very skinny.
Were your parents against you doing it?
Dad was. He hated the idea. He wanted me to move back to the States from Brazil and get a college degree. Typical, you know, just like follow the system. My mom is a dreamer, so she's like, go, Annabelle, do whatever your heart desires. And I convinced my dad, saying that I had no idea what I wanted to do in college, so give me a buffer year and I will discover what I'm passionate about. And I didn't want to spend his money on some stupid major. So he was all for it. But 1 year kept on extending. I kept on saying that I wanted to give it another shot. Things are getting better. I always convinced him. Yeah, so I was hopping around Asia for 5 years. And I think towards the end of those 5 years, there was an ex-boyfriend. He was the one who dragged me out of trying to be really skinny, alcohol, drug phase, Annabelle, he lifted himself. So he took me to the gym, introduced me to everything, and I really liked it. And I loved how I could eat more. I didn't have to starve. And I could still be that, I guess, skinny or like have the model figure, you know, but just in a healthier way than what I was doing. So it started off like that. Then when I actually moved to India, which was after those 5 years, that's when I really got into it. My first barbell squat was in Mumbai in a small gym. Yeah. And then people just came into my path. And I don't know if you had similar experience, but I got curious. I really liked getting stronger in the gym. People started telling me, maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that. I went with different people. Yeah, and that's just how it started.
Yeah. Did you meet your boyfriend like through modeling?
Yeah, he was a model as well.
Okay.
And we traveled like a year together. So in that year, that's when I really got into it. But again, it's kind of like the cardio bunny phase, light weights, high reps. He didn't really push for me to try other things. He just saw that I was comfortable with that. But still, that was better than what I was doing. So that was like my introduction to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite, I'm trying to think, when did I first officially start? I was always fat growing up. And I think I remember I just always wanted to like lose weight.
Okay.
So then I just became like the typical cardio bunny.
Yeah.
And I would always go outside on runs. And then one day someone approached me and said, "Oh, you should, start lifting weights." And I was a
Were
bit
you
like,
hesitant at first?
yeah.
Like, oh, I don't want to be bulky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was scared to like look like a man and stuff, like the typical.
Right. I think every girl goes through that.
Yeah. And I think the thing that helped was that my mom would like go with me to the gym.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mom was like into lifting as well. And I know that like if she wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have gone.
Oh.
I don't know if you had the same thing, but like you feel like everyone's looking at you. Everyone's looking at you in the gym.
I was like overly confident. I did not care.
That's really good.
Seriously, I was doing everything wrong, but I was like just happy to be in there and asking
Yeah.
the trainers questions.
Yeah.
But I understand a lot of people talk about this gym intimidation,
Yeah.
right? And I
So
feel
I
like that's
had
what.
that, and I think the reason I had that was because I was like quite chubby, and I would think like, oh, I'm probably doing the wrong thing. I remember I would like literally beg my mom to go to the gym with me, because I would literally like hide behind her. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a few sets while like no one's looking at me, and I would just go with my mom, because then it always feels like when you're with someone, you feel a bit like, I don't know, protected.
Oh, it's comforting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that's why a lot of people I think get PTs, because it takes away that fear that you're doing something wrong.
Right, because
I
you
think
have
I
someone
struggled with
taking
that.
you through it.
Yeah, I struggled with that. Even though I did grow up playing sports, I felt like, everything I was doing in the gym was wrong basically. And then I did the stupidest thing ever, and I went on the paleo diet. Have you heard of that one? It's basically like super low
Yeah.
carb. It's like keto, kind of.
Yeah.
And what happened was I was like, right, this is the solution to everything. I'm going to be super skinny. All you have to do is not eat any carbs. And
Right.
obviously what happened after that, I had no shape, literally none. Because
Zero.
how are you going to build muscle if you're not obviously fueling
Of
yourself?
course.
So not only did I look awful and I had no shape, I literally had people, when I came back to visit, like during the summer holidays, I went back to my old school, like to see the teachers. And they literally, one of the teachers said to me, she's like, "Sam, you have no butt. Like, what happened to your butt?" And I was like, when I heard that, that really stung. I was like, I've literally done everything and I still get like bullied, So that really affected me. And then we started going to the gym with my mom again, because during this paleo time I didn't really do much weight training. I did running.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the energy to train, so I was just like, I'm gonna run. And then got back into the gym, and then this big bodybuilder started talking to my mom, and she became friends with him, and he's like, "You guys need to start lifting weights. You guys are so skinny." And he like showed me pictures of one of the PTs in the gym who competes.
Okay.
I looked at that and I'm like,
I like that body type. Yeah.
I'm like, I always wanted to have a six-pack, but I still don't have one. And he's like, it's because you just don't eat enough. You don't train, obviously. So
Right.
he was actually my first ever trainer.
Okay.
And he got me into lifting. And then ever since then, as I got more comfortable with training and learning, I was able to go to the gym on my own, basically. And then I went to uni in the UK, and while I was at uni, I found a bodybuilding gym like right next to my uni campus.
Sick.
And I started training there, and I got a PT as well.
Okay.
So most students, they spend their money on like alcohol and stuff. And I would
Yeah.
just spend it on PT, literally. This guy was like, where do you get this money from for PT? And I'm like, well, I don't have a life really. I don't really go out and stuff. So I would go like at 7 a.m. every single day without fail. And I would just go and train. And it
I
kind
love
of
it.
started from there. So I think the thing that got me in the first place was just because I was insecure with myself and I was fat.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always either someone is too skinny. So I guess in your
It's
case,
one end of the spectrum.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think in
But I
your
say like fitness saved my life because, but really, because I was in such a, like, people who knew me back then, they see me now and they're like, how did this change happen? Because
yeah,
I was so heavily into partying and alcohol and like bad model life that if I didn't get out of that, I'm sure I don't know if I'd be here today. So fitness definitely saved me. Yeah.
It's actually mad. And so whenever anyone says, "Oh yeah, it's just genetics," like
Please.
look at where you were. Actually crazy.
Yeah.
This leads us on to present day. So you are now a bikini pro, which is actually mad.
Crazy.
And you are now prepping for
our first prep together.
Yeah.
And we got a pro card.
Yeah. So for those people who don't know, Annabel and I are actually working together. She's my prodigy. But we're prepping her now for her first show, and it's been an incredibly long prep.
Very.
Because of obviously the coronavirus.
Yeah.
But the
show that was supposed to happen in May got pushed to August and then got pushed to September.
But the way she's handled this has been absolutely insane, because I think you need to have a really strong mind to be able to go through what she's gone through, because people think, oh yeah, you know, she's got lean, now she's eating loads of food. But what people don't understand is that that whole adaptation takes a while, and you have to be really consistent with
very consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the questions that we keep getting is like, oh, how does this reverse dieting work? In reality, I think you just have to be really patient and really consistent. And Annabel has managed to actually take her starting point that she had in January for her first show and improve it drastically. Like, this is the best that she's looked. And we're actually starting her prep now 12 weeks out instead of like 16 weeks out. So what are your current plans? What shows are you doing?
So we are planning for New York Pro, which is September 5th. And then one that I'm extremely excited about, which is is it Wider or Weeder? Weeder? Ben Weeder's. Ben Weeder's super like natural pro show in Toronto. Yeah, that's a drug tested one.
That they started doing that. I think they announced it last
Very cool. And the last time they put up the banner, that show was going to be a qualification for 2021 Olympia, but now they reposted the banner and it is qualified for 2020.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes.
That's sick. So that's going to be the second show, and I'm assuming it's going to be a bit of a bigger show.
You think so?
Maybe. If it's like or do you mean that it wasn't a qualifier at first?
No, it was a qualifier. I'm just saying not a lot of people would go to an actual show. Like I feel like New York Pro is a much bigger show as compared to this one.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because New York is actually known as one of the
the
main shows, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised that Pittsburgh didn't get a new date, but because that's another big one.
Yeah. Pittsburgh would be a big show. But yeah, this year has been a bit weird with competitions, because obviously they had to reschedule
a lot,
all the shows.
Yeah.
And
then the third one is Boston, potentially.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. And then obviously the Olympia is now in December
21st, I think.
It's like Christmas time.
It's Christmas. People have Christmas plans, and now it's going to be Olympia.
It's quite cool though.
Yeah.
But overall, Annabelle, like I said, she's in a really good position. Calories are super high.
Yeah.
Cardio is super
low.
She's this whole time she's only had access to her living room and weights, and she's actually managed to preserve, I would say, most of her muscle.
I'd say so.
But she's just moved to a new place, and it actually has an indoor gym, which is sick.
So sick, because you kept on saying, I really hope that when we start prep, we're gonna have some sort of gym equipment.
Yeah.
And the gyms didn't open, but now I'm blessed with this thing right at home.
Yeah.
So it'll be good. Let's see.
Annabelle's home gym will be, I'm so jealous, Powerhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, so that'll be
Francis.
Good. When you get back into the gym, you can continue your prep there. Yeah, so hopefully you'll get to get in there as soon as possible.
I know, that'll be sick. How about, let's move on to you now.
With regards to me, so a not
injury.
So interesting topic. We're literally opposite sides of the spectrum. Unfortunately, this is actually a big tip for everyone listening, is if anyone is suffering with an injury or a niggle, something doesn't feel right, I think it's really easy for our egos to kick in.
Oh yeah.
And for you to
push through, ignore it.
And that's the biggest mistake that I made, is I had hip issues for the past 5 years, ever since I got into training. And I would ignore it, and I'd think, you know what, it's probably just a niggle or a tight muscle, whatever. And now fast forward 5 years, and I was going to compete this year. I was in a really good position.
Yeah.
And my hip gave up on me. So I thought...
Was it an exercise that triggered it?
You know what? I think it's just the fact that I was PBing on a lot of movement. So I was getting stronger. And obviously injuries happen most of the time to people who are training heavy.
Okay.
And what happens is, under load, under stress, your body is going to compensate, and it's going to try and do whatever is easier, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes if you have a weakness somewhere in your body, you lift in an incorrect pattern, which then results in an injury from that. So in my case, it looks like this potentially stemmed from an ankle injury I had back when I played sports. And over the years, I've shifted my weight onto the left side of my body. So think about it. When there's load and my ankle doesn't want to work because my brain is like, it's still injured, I then lift more through the other side. And obviously that results in injury. So it finally kind of gave up on me. And
when was it this year that you...
This was in October of 2019.
Okay.
And I remember after some leg session, I was going up the stairs and I was in so much pain. Like literally, it felt like something was just stabbing into my hip. And I was like, maybe, you know, I just trained legs too hard. And then the next day I could barely walk and it was just really sore. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a couple weeks off. Nothing's going to happen. But the pain kept returning. So then I went to physio. They said, look, you need to take time off training. I went to Russia on holiday. So I was like, this is a great time to kind of use to not think about training.
Yeah.
And then by this point, I haven't been training for properly my legs for like 2 months.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, it should be recovered by now. But obviously it's not to do with the actual injury. This is the mistake people make. It's the pattern, the movement pattern. So if you've been training a certain way for years and you take time off, yeah, sure, you might recover the injury, the muscle itself. But then when you go back in the gym and start training again, you're going to do the same thing to it. That's kind of what happened to me. So I basically decided to go to a biomechanics specialist who looks at the way that you train, and he literally immediately identified. He's like, look at this ankle, now look at this one. When you build a house, what's the most important thing?
Foundation.
And I have no foundation, which is awful because I'm like, I feel bad. I coach people and I don't even have a solid foundation myself. But I think this is something that a lot of people, it doesn't necessarily, you know, say whether someone is a good athlete or not.
Of
It's
course
just
it doesn't.
what you've been exposed to. And like, although yes, of course, I know warming up is important.
Yeah.
If it's something that you've only recently introduced and you didn't do in the past, it's too late. So
I just feel like you have handled the situation so gracefully. I give you props to that, because you remember it was sometime during prep before the gyms closed. There was one morning, I don't know what the fuck happened. I put my foot on the ground and I couldn't walk.
oh yeah,
I couldn't walk, and I was bawling my eyes out. And that was one day, my friends, one day of me thinking, holy shit, I can't train anymore. What is life? So the way that you dealt with it, because it's for sure a mind fuck to not be able to train.
Yeah, I literally get a call from Annabel and I'm just like, why? This is probably a butt dial. And then I answer the phone and she's literally crying. She's like, Sammy, I don't know what to do. My knee is so painful. And then we just had her, I think you just rested.
I rested and I trained upper body that same day. So it was just like one half of the day.
Yeah. And then it was fine. So yeah, sometimes you just need to back off. It can just be like, you know, a twitch or something.
Mm-hmm.
But basically this whole kind of quarantine time has been, to me, a blessing in disguise, because it's forced me to go, I can't go to the gym anyway. I'm not missing out really. So I've had to do loads of rehab stuff. And honestly, rehab is the most boring thing and the hardest thing I have ever done. So I'm doing like ab exercises and I've realized how weak my core is. And I think for some individuals, like they're fine not to, let's say, emphasize their core training. But it's taught me that actually, even if you are a bikini athlete, you need to have good core control, because you know, when you lift, what are you going to use? Your core. I've also realized that, you know, because this ankle has, you know, a movement issue, I have to strengthen the ankle, which is not something you do in the gym.
Right.
So it's basically humbled me. That's the right,
that's the perfect word to use.
Yeah, so hopefully my goal is to get back in the gym by October.
Okay.
Like properly already.
Yeah.
But with injuries, it's one of those things.
You never know. Yeah. Okay. Are you currently working with anyone? Because I know that last time we spoke, you did have like a physio, but you wanted to do in-person sessions, not like Zoom stuff, right?
So obviously because of Corona, I haven't been able to go to this physio.
Okay.
Is
he called a physio still, even though he specializes in biomechanics? Or is it a different?
He's not a physio, you're right. He's more like a PT/biomechanics expert.
Fine.
So he's given me some stuff to do, but in all honesty, I think when it comes to injuries, everyone's body is different. And sometimes you just learn yourself. Like you start doing exercises and you're like, wait a second, this is way weaker than this. Maybe I should focus more on that.
Right.
So with the help of my boyfriend, who's a power lifter, he had a hip injury himself. Thank God, because he's really helped me. Yeah.
Good.
So I'm not gonna lie, I've had a few breakdowns over this quarantine where I just cry. I'd just be like, you know what, I don't even lift. I've lost so much. I feel like I've lost loads of size.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing to remember is that, like, unfortunately, we as humans, like, we're not robots. Especially if you're a natural athlete, you have even higher risk to injure yourself, because your recovery is not going to be as great. So my lesson from here is, you know, just because you treat other people like, oh, you feel tired, take a rest day, you should apply the same to yourself.
You should do the same to yourself. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. But it's so difficult to tell yourself, you know.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not currently working with any coach. Obviously, there's no point, because it depends on how I recover. Yeah, so hopefully I'll be back in the game soon, but I've used this time quite wisely. I think I could have either been super depressed, or
Right.
what I've done instead is like just done more work on my laptop, studied more,
Let me learn. Yeah.
you know? So I think there's pros and cons to it. And I think it's great that, you know, you have your pro debut. I'm not in prep. So, you know, it's a lot easier for me to dedicate time and go, okay, I'm going to spend
Right.
time talking to Annabelle or doing her.
That is something that I wanted to ask you. Like, do you think that if you were on prep, because it's something that I'm gonna have to deal with too. I don't
Yeah.
know anymore. Like, if you were to be on prep, would you be able to take somebody else through prep?
I think it's
It's
possible.
hard.
Of course, it's possible. I think the main thing is communication,
Yeah.
for sure. And you'd have to, in my opinion, if you want to give a quality service, you have to, first of all, limit how many people you're prepping through your own prep,
Right.
because you have to think about it. When someone's in prep, I think having twice a week check-ins and a higher communication rate is very important,
Yeah.
because they need that. We need to pay attention. We need to make sure we catch things early on.
Right.
You know? So yes, I think it is possible. I noticed that when you are deeper in prep, obviously energy levels are what suffer the
Go for a
most.
toss. Yeah.
And you know, if you're someone who does video check-ins like myself with your clients, maybe the last month, like the month out from your actual competitions, you might want to resort to like voice message or even email check-ins, because
Mm-hmm.
you know, you might literally not even have the energy to be sat on a laptop recording videos, uploading the videos, sending it.
Yeah.
So I found that even when I was doing my cut last year, I had some days where like if a client literally didn't need a video check-in, like everything's fine, I'll just email them. So I think, and it's important to let your clients know that, like, okay, guys, you know, over the next 8 weeks, I'm going to be doing voice message, email check-in,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm in prep. And if they don't understand that, you know, unfortunately
Yeah.
they don't. But I think most people are going to value the feedback more than whether or not it's a voice message or video check-in, you know,
Yeah.
especially if they know what you're going through. So I definitely think it's possible. And in your case, I think it helps having a coach. So when I had a coach during my cut, I didn't have to think about myself. So then I can use that time to dedicate to
To think
clients.
about others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're in prep, you have like, think of it as like a battery. You have like 100%. You can't give that to everything. So you'd rather use that battery that you have for your clients, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
So
a
I
lot of
think it
sense.
is, I think definitely it's possible. It's harder,
Okay.
but yeah.
And keep it limited, like you said. I think lifestyle clients is one thing, and that's easily manageable. But to prep people while you're on prep, that was a good tip.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep it limited
Um,
amount. I'm
next,
looking at the list of questions.
next question. So you guys will see the timestamps in the YouTube description. But because this podcast is called Squats and Sushi, and the reason it's Squats and Sushi is because obviously Annabelle and I both love training and we love squatting, but also we love sushi. And I thought it's like quite a cool name.
So what is your favorite roll?
My favorite roll, it's quite an unpopular opinion.
Really?
Do you know what eel is?
Yes.
It's the brown stuff. The brown,
Yeah.
that's my favorite. So anything with that eel is my favorite. I know it's weird, but it has this like sweet flavor to it. And it doesn't really taste like anything. Some people say it tastes a bit fishy, but I don't know. I think it's quite nice.
Okay. I'm a very basic girl.
You're a basic girl.
Salmon and cream cheese.
That's really nice. I think it's called, isn't it called Philadelphia?
A
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia roll. Yes. I was thinking California, but that's a different one. Yeah, it's Philadelphia
Yeah.
roll.
To be fair,
And
I
like avocado in there too is nice.
Yeah.
Do you like the fish eggs on top?
Yeah. There's
like
not,
that.
honestly, like, I don't know if you ever used to play this game, but I guess you can call it a game, but like, you go with your friends or whoever to a sushi restaurant and you have to order the most weirdest thing on the menu. So
No,
like,
I haven't.
so we play this game where like you look on the menu and you know how you can get those sushi rolls with like fish on top, like just the fish.
Yes.
I think it's called nigiri.
Nigiri, yep.
And like I remember having someone order like octopus or like
Oh,
squid or something, some weird stuff. Yeah, and you have to eat it. It was so funny. But yeah, I think I like pretty much all sushi rolls.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you like the wasabi on the side? Do
Yeah,
you
I
use
love
that? Yeah.
wasabi and ginger as well. Ginger is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my first time actually having sushi was, I'll never forget this. It was when I was 12 and I went to a restaurant with my aunt and her friends.
Okay.
And they ordered sushi and I looked at it and I was like, that is so disgusting because it's raw fish
Raw fish on
on
rice.
rice. And then she
Mm-hmm.
was like, come on, like try it. And I was so young, you know, and I felt a bit like embarrassed because like I don't want to look weird because I'm like, no, I'm not gonna have that. So obviously I tried some.
Yeah.
And I remember I tried and I'm like, this is actually amazing.
The best thing I've had, yeah.
Yeah. And then ever since that day, like literally for every birthday I have, I go to for sushi.
Oh, good to know.
It's really nice. And
I think
it's fairly healthy as well.
it is.
Yeah.
The only thing sushi rice has, who told me this? Has like sugar. That's what makes it sticky. They
You
put
know
sugar
what
in
it
it.
is? It's
Tell
not
me.
bad for you. It's not sugar, it's starch.
Oh,
So there's like short grain and long grain rice.
yeah.
And you know how like basmati is quite dry?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the sushi rice, it just has more starch. And if you don't wash the rice, that starch obviously stays in the rice and it gets
Right.
sticky.
And that's why
It's
it
not
gets
bad for
sticky.
you though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think my first experience was when I was living in Guangzhou in China. China for sushi. Yeah. And
Is
it was
it
the first time
popular?
that I used chopsticks as well,
Mm.
which was a fail.
Is it popular in China? I'm guessing it is.
Not that popular. It's more of a Japanese thing, but we went to
Yeah.
a Japanese restaurant.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That was my first experience.
So you were like when you were a lot older.
17. Yeah.
Yeah. Chinese food is quite good as well, though. I like Chinese
I
food.
think out of my
Like dumpling. What do you call them? Dim sum.
oh, dim sums.
Yeah, I like dim
They're
sums as
good.
well.
Is it dim sums or momos?
I think it's called
In India they call them momos.
momos. I think they're called dim sum. The ones that are like in that like
Steam, like the basket type of thing, right?
yeah. Let's talk about, actually this is quite good transition from food. What our thoughts are on body recomp. Is it possible to recomp your body? I think it's quite a popular question that people ask, is that they want to try and do both at the same time.
Yeah. Gain lean muscle while not gaining fat or keeping that to a minimum. Yeah. But I think if you're not a beginner, right, we can talk about that later. I think you need to pick one. What do you want to focus on? And then put all of your energy into that. Yeah. Embrace each phase. Don't try and juggle between the two, because then you're just going to like stall your progress, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it is possible to gain muscle with minimal fat gain. Because we need to look at it. We need to create an environment for our body to want to build muscle.
Right.
And the only way to do that is obviously to eat enough calories. But I think the place where people go wrong is they go, I'm bulking.
So I'm going to eat whatever I want.
And the word bulking is very heavily associated with copious amounts of food.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I hate, the word bulk. I just don't like that word. But yeah, I think that's the problem, is that people
associate it with pizza, burgers, and whatever.
And then obviously, you know, if you want to make proper changes to your physique, and both Annabel and I can, you know,
vouch for this.
Yeah, exactly. Is that if you want to actually change your body, like, you can't be in a deficit. You need to actually commit to eating more food.
Yeah.
And so that whole kind of phenomena of body recomp is essentially, looking leaner as you build muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're in a slight surplus, think of it yourself. You'll put muscle on, right? Because you're in a slight surplus. As you put muscle on, you're going to look leaner.
Yeah.
I think so. I think recomp is possible. You just have to be very consistent. And
that's the main word.
Yeah. And then, like Annabelle said, if you're a beginner, you're going to respond anyway, because it's as your training age increases, it's actually a lot harder to see progress, because your body gets used to the stimulus. And in order for you to continue seeing progress, you have to, you know, either change the way you're training, or if there are some lifts that you haven't maxed out on yet, you know, try and get to your maximum there.
Right.
That's why, you know, when people, as natural lifters, the longer you lift, like you're kind of almost start to plateau in how much muscle you carry. Yeah, and then you have to really like try and find some method that works for you.
How long do you think it takes, or is this also very person dependent, to achieve your genetic potential? Yeah, your max potential.
So as a natural lifter, I think it's obviously different for females and males. I think males actually, you know, they have a longer time period because they obviously have more testosterone.
Yeah.
Considering that because I think the first 3 years for anyone of training, most people, they were proper.
Time. They don't.
Because they either haven't been tracking their lifts.
Yeah.
Or they've had awful form. And if you take a squat and you do awful form, 60 kilos, and then amazing form, 60 kilos, that's a progression. The weight is the same. So, you know.
So you're saying the 3 years can be the most beautiful, but if you have the proper guidance. Exactly. And majority of us who get into this don't have that, and we waste those initial years.
So if you've been training like, you know, perfect insane, I think most of the time it's around 10 years maybe.
Okay.
But again, like you said, it's very different because everyone has different lifting experiences.
Yeah.
You know, I can say I've only properly been training, like tracking my lifts and everything, since the start of 2017. And like,
I feel like I've only been start with you. Before, I never used to logbook.
Yeah.
I would just like go in the gym and say, all right, today's back day. I'm going to do this amount and this amount. It's just, yeah.
So for you, it's like 2018, which just means that you have so much that you can progress. Yeah. And you've seen that like through this improvement season.
Oh, it's been.
It's actually mad how much muscle you've put on.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because you've just been so consistent and you've not been afraid to actually eat more food.
Yeah.
So I hope that kind of answers our question.
I think so.
Yeah. What thing do you miss the most during quarantine? It can't be the gym though.
It can't. Okay.
That's an obvious one.
I think just going to places freely. I just miss like being around people. I'm very social. I like having people around me, and like maybe not wearing a mask too. That's very suffocating to me.
Is it now like
put it on, I just want to like remove it. I hate it.
You have to wear a mask in the US?
You have to wear a mask.
Oh, so they don't even let you like just walk around, you have to wear it. Because here,
like a shop, see, if there's like a shopping development and there's a Starbucks here and like a supermarket there, they expect you to put the mask on and walk around.
So like public
There
areas.
are plenty of people, yeah, public areas. So if I'm going on a hike, no, I don't need to be wearing a mask. Although there are people on the hike that I'll see wearing a mask, which is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I don't get that. Seb and I, right, we decided to break the rules and go to a park.
Okay.
And, you know, it literally says on the sign, like, you're not allowed here because of coronavirus. And we're like, who are we going to interact with here? There's literally no one in the park.
Right.
We just decided to walk there.
And did you?
Yeah. Oh, no, there was no one there. But like, it's just, to me, it's silly. I think that they've really overdone this whole kind of social distancing.
People are going to get very touchy about this too, because there are people who are very extreme, and I understand if you're like older, if you've had illnesses in the past, that's why you have like this whole paranoia towards it. And I'm not saying that it's not a serious thing, but my personal opinion, I think that it has been exaggerated.
100%.
Completely.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And you do get people, like you said, like we would go on a walk, and we were walking, it's like a canal, so a waterway, and then like a path, which is enough for like people to walk by like that.
But they'll like avoid you if they see you.
And there was a woman who literally stopped, and she was like, went like that, like, you know, social distancing. And Seb is like, I wouldn't want you to fall in the water, because she was literally standing right next to the water. And we're just like, and also if you feel so bothered by like being out, like maybe you should stay in, you know. So
yeah, these minor things are gonna piss you off so much. Yeah,
it is annoying though, I'm not gonna lie.
Do you miss like a certain thing, or it would just be like interactions?
The thing that I miss the most is, like you said, I like, because my routine is I'm at home a lot anyway, because I work from home. I miss that, you know, social interaction, just going, even if it was in the gym, you know, you don't have to necessarily have best friends in the gym, but just people who you know.
Right.
Like missing that, you know, having that routine. Going out, like I like to go sometimes to museums. Like we went to see, you know, Tutankhamun, like the Egyptian, the mummy.
So cool.
Yeah, so we went to the museum because they were having the tour.
Okay.
You know, little things like that. So things that have nothing to do with fitness. And that's what I kind of miss. I feel
even just like going to my local coffee shop and sitting inside and people watching, or just
so just doing things that don't involve you just being inside the whole day. And I feel like being inside all the time and working at home all the time can really take a toll on you.
There was definitely. And there's an article that I read saying how depression rates have spiked immensely here, and suicide rates too.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, because like I can imagine, you know, for some people, like especially if you have like a house that has domestic violence, you know, that's
a whole other topic. Jeez. Yeah.
We're not, by the way, we don't want this podcast to be like a political debate.
Right.
It's true, you know, like realizing how much actually this coronavirus affects people.
We're very lucky. Yeah. And the biggest thing for me, especially because I was on prep when all of this happened, right? My biggest concern was food. Like, am I going to get what I need?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to have enough food? But yeah, blessed too. Fridge was always full and I always had everything. But I know that that's not the case with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, next question.
Next.
This is what someone actually asked on Instagram. But how can you be consistent on a diet for a very long time?
Without going crazy? Is that the question?
Open the
Yeah, your side's getting a bit dark. What time is it over there?
It's like 9 p.m.
Oh.
Is that better? Yeah.
Yeah, better.
Yeah, so how to be consistent on a diet for a long time. And I think the reason this girl asked the question is because a lot of people run into the issue that, okay, I'm on a diet, 4 weeks pass, they're happy, and then the longer they are in a diet, the less motivation they have because they start getting hungry, start seeing these negative kind of adaptations and stuff, and they start to get food focused. So I think you're actually a great person to answer this question, because someone who's pretty much been on a diet the whole year, regardless of the amount of calories, but you've been on lower calories, you've been on higher calories, but you've basically been pretty consistent with your nutrition.
Right.
So
what I'm trying to understand, like, what keeps me motivated, or like what tips would I give somebody?
What tips would you give to someone about how to just stay consistent on a diet, like stick to your macros? I think I'll start this question off by saying, if you're someone who's on a diet plan, I think that's the first thing you need to do. Is, I think diet plans have a place. But if you're someone who is looking at your diet plan and thinking, oh, I have to eat this again.
Yeah. Okay. So we could definitely talk about that, because when you introduced macros to me, that was life-changing. And I can tell you that it didn't even feel like I was dieting.
Yeah.
Like I was
so
fine. I think that took like the stress away from myself, knowing that I was able to choose what I wanted to eat and to have so much variety in my diet.
Yeah. Would you say that when you first transitioned into macros, you thought, if I eat this way, I'm not going to have the same amount of muscle, my performance is not going to be great, and I'm just not going to look good?
Oh yeah. I was mad at you.
I think this is a very
I don't think I ever told you this, because I came to Sammy and I was on a meal plan, right? Bro, basic, bland foods.
Eggs.
And then she's like, and eggs. So many fucking eggs. It got to a point where I was having like 60 eggs, maybe 60. I don't know, it was ridiculous. But yeah, Sammy told me, let's be more flexible. Let's use this off season to learn something new. And yeah, I was mad because I didn't think that I was strict enough, or that she didn't think that I was serious about the sport, and that's why she's trying to make me flexible. And I thought that you just needed to, in order to be hardcore about the sport, you needed to stick with the bro ways.
Yeah. So basically, to kind of sum up the answer to this question is, if you make your diet fun and you make it something that you actually look forward to, I think you're obviously more likely going to stick to it in the long run.
Exactly. Yeah. If it's something that feels extremely restrictive, you are going to be miserable on it for a long period of time.
Yeah. And the other thing you need to think about is, whether can you stick to this in 5 weeks time? It needs to be sustainable, and there doesn't necessarily have to be foods that are not on plan, or foods that you can't eat, like banned food. Of course you want to have moderation, because you're not going to function well off just eating sugar as your carb source.
Of course.
So I think that's
as you get deeper into prep, or deeper into a deficit, you're also going to want to pick like higher volume foods.
I was just going to say,
Oh yeah. Then like now I have room for my cereal and just chocolate covered pretzels, like little things like that I want to fit in my day. But as I get deeper into prep, it'll be oats, sweet potato, and things that I can have that'll make my plate full, and I will feel full afterwards. It won't be as calorically dense foods.
That's called smart dieting. I think another reason why people fail is they either go on way too low calories, or they're not smart with their choices. So they eat very low volume foods, and then they go, oh, I'm hungry.
Yeah. I also want to say that if you are a competitor, there is going to you're going to hit a point in prep where it sucks.
Yeah.
And you can't, like, there's nothing that you can do to make it better. You're just going to have to go through that phase. So it's like, you got to suck it up for that point.
And you have to accept that you are going to be hungry in a deficit. I think this is another thing. People run away from
what do they expect?
Hunger.
I'm like, what do people expect? You're on a deficit. You're going to feel hungry.
Exactly. So you just have to suck it up, I think.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately, it's the truth. There's no, magic. The best way you can do is just choose smart foods, don't eat donuts.
You can make it easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long has this thing been going on for? Just wondering.
Do you need to go?
No, I do have to pee, but it's okay. I can hold it in. How long has this been?
You can pee because I can talk about the next.
Okay, what is the next one?
Talking about the next things.
How important is periodization for bikini athletes? Yes. Take it away, Sammy.
So while Annabel is on her intermission, how important is periodization for bikini athletes? So what I'm going to start off by saying is it doesn't matter whether you're a bikini athlete, men's physique competitor, bodybuilder, just looking to, improve your overall shape. Periodization is basically the way that you program your training over time. And you can get into specifics of, different training blocks. They're called macro cycles. You can also have micro cycles. But essentially, periodization is what you do to continue seeing progress in your physique over a long period of time. And I actually had this question yesterday on Instagram. And I think there are so many ways and styles of training that you can get lost. And there's so much information out there online, on Instagram, on what is the next best way to program. So personally, what I would advise for people is don't overthink it. Realize that to see progress in your physique and in your training, you need to, first of all, make sure that you are progressively overloading, which essentially means, you're getting stronger in your lifts, you're adding weight to your lifts over time, and that you are able to recover from that. Because I think another thing that people, or another mistake that people make, is that they overtrain and they think training more is better. Sure, you can train twice a day if you can recover from that, but for most people with, the lifestyle that most people live, and they have an office job, they have medium amount of stress, they have a family, they need to cook for their family, their recovery capability isn't going to be the same as, a teenage boy who doesn't have a job and doesn't have any, massive responsibilities. So you need to consider those things when programming, and everyone is different. Everyone can handle a different amount of volume. So to kind of go back to what this question is asking, how important is it to periodize for athletes? I think 100% it's very important, and it is the foundation of, seeing progress in your physique. But the way that you kind of program your training is very dependent on where you're at and what you are looking to achieve. And that's pretty much my kind of view on it. And I think you should just focus on overall progression. You don't need to, unless you're someone like Annabel or like myself who's been training for a while. Let's say you get to a sticking point, you're starting to plateau. That's when maybe you can have a look at, your training technique, what you're doing with your programming, and then potentially change something. But overall, I think the main thing is progressive overload. Make sure you're staying within your recoverable volume. Obviously assess every so often. but you don't need to, you know, overthink it to the point where it's like, you know, oh, I can't do this because it's not on, you know, on my training program. I can't do this extra rep or something, you know? Because like, if I have on my program, let's say I did 6 reps of 100 kilos last week, and I go into the gym and I'm on my 7th rep because I'm beating last week's number,
right.
and I genuinely feel really good, and I'm like, you know what, I can actually do 10 reps. Obviously you don't want to go to absolute failure to then basically fuck yourself up, but you feel like you can do like 8 reps instead of 7.
I would still push it.
Yeah. So in that case, like, even if on your program it's like, oh, I need to, you know, only go up by 1 rep every week, I would just take it, because that's the thing about, I think, auto-regulation and listening to your body is really important. And a lot of people, I think, are too textbook focused, and I'm not here to say that I don't, you know, support that. I think there's obviously science is good, but I also think that our bodies and our environments, you know, it
play a huge role. Yeah.
So one week you might have had a stressful week, that's why you only were able to do 6 reps, and then the next week you had amazing sleep, your recovery was on point, and now you can do 8 to 10, you know. So that's why when it comes to periodizing, I think unless you're like an advanced lifter, I don't think you really need to like get into the really small details and overthink it. That's just my personal opinion. But I still have a lot to
listen to the part. I can't wait to go back and listen to this podcast and hear everything that you said before I came back, because that was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's
do you ever get clients, and how do you deal with this, who are looking for novelty, and they just want it? Novelty as in like they want something new, they want change. They'll be like, oh, okay, so we've been on this plan for 4 to 6 weeks. What's next?
Yes.
My God, it's so difficult to deal with people like this.
I think it's actually more common than you would think. Should I turn the lights on? Is it really dark?
It's just your face. Your hair has merged in with the background. I think lights on would be nice.
Oh my God, there we go.
There we go.
Guys, this is a pilot, by the way, so we've made some notes on what we need to improve on. But I think that's more common than you would think. And I think most people who kind of start working with a coach, you know, I'm not going to say that they don't trust you, but they come to you with their own experience, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like they think a coach is there to basically just give them training, give them their nutrition, and that's it. That they're not going to educate the client on potentially something that they haven't been doing. So if someone comes to you and they're not seeing results, there's a reason why they're not seeing results. You're there to help them, not only guide them through the process, but to go, hey, the reason why you're not seeing results is because you either keep switching what you're doing, so your body doesn't actually have enough time to, you know, create stimulus and keep improving on it.
Right.
And let's say you haven't been consistent with your nutrition. So I think it's very, very difficult to find people who are actually coachable, and that it's a process.
It's a very big thing. Not everyone is coachable.
Yeah. And that's why, you know what, I'm this kind, and you can probably agree with this, but I'm a no BS person. Like, if someone is, you know, they check in and they basically sound like, you know, they're not doing what I've basically told them to do, I will say to them, you know, why are you, like, what's your purpose for coaching? Like, what are you trying to achieve through it?
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's good to have like consultation calls, because sometimes people are not ready for coaching. And if you're someone who's looking to coach everyday people, like general population, you have to accept that. You need to accept the fact that people are going to think they know better.
Always.
And that the coaching for them is more of accountability more than anything else. Then you'll also get athletes like you who have obviously knowledge themselves, but they need someone for accountability and potentially to discuss, how can I be even better? So you have to look at the specific client who you're working with and have that discussion with them. I think you have to just be honest and go, look,
I think I need a little bit more of that. I'm very nice. I'm always like, it's okay. No. But it gets to a point where then this is what happened recently. Like, oh, your plan isn't giving me results. Then I felt like a volcano almost erupt because I'm like, listen, there's nothing wrong with my plan. It's you who are not following anything, because every single week, every check-in, there's something that pops up and you couldn't follow it because of X reason. And I'm okay with that, but you also can't expect results if you're not consistent.
Exactly. And the thing is, you're not alone, because I have the exact same thing. And I think it's kind of nice to go, oh, okay, she experiences the same. And I think it's just the way most people are, because most people, this is another thing I wanted to really emphasize on this podcast, is that you get a lot of people who make fitness podcasts and they are either PTs or they're online coaches or they're athletes. Most people aren't. And most people who actually take part in fitness or just regular everyday people who have a 9-to-5 job, and sometimes they can't commit the same amount of time as me and you can, And so for them, sometimes training, they're not even bothered about the results. Like, sure, they might want to be a bit leaner, but they just go to train to get their mind off work. So in that case, as long as the person is aware that they're not going to make the best hypertrophy results,
right,
then sure, please, do your once a week CrossFit, once a week bodybuilding, whatever. So I think it also depends on the person's goal. Yeah.
And being realistic too. I think that's something that you have taught me and I admire a lot, because so many girls have come to me and they're like, oh, I spoke with your coach, but she doesn't want to prep me. So yeah, I'm going to get somebody else. Or I spoke with your coach and because you're very realistic. And I feel like, there aren't coaches who are like that. They'll just see somebody as money, and they're like, you want to prep? Fuck it. Come. Let's do it. Like, they don't genuinely care.
Exactly.
That's something that I learned from you, and I like that a lot. Just I think being very honest with what the person wants and the time frame that they're giving you.
I think it is difficult because I have in the past, I can see someone's really passionate, but they're not willing to get themselves in a position where they would have a way better prep. Right. But like you said, I think if you're not honest with someone from the start, you
have to be honest.
It's not going to work. And also I see it this way, like from a business perspective, like some people think of it as money, but in my opinion, like, my time is valuable. And like, I don't want to have to take someone on and know that I'm going to have to spend way more time on them because they have a deadline and they're not in a good position. So that to me is times 2 in terms of time. I have to give them twice as much time because I'm going to be stressed myself.
Right.
My responsibility is to get them in shape. So that's why I look at it from a business perspective and I'm like, would I rather save time and actually invest it into someone who is going to be with me long term and who actually understands, or do I want this short, quick, make money 12-week thing? Do you know what I mean? Yes. And that's how you can filter out clients who are actually going to stick with you in the long run and who are willing to work, and clients who are just there for Instagram likes and whatever.
And this is all, like, you're going to learn this over time. These are mistakes that you've probably made. I made in the beginning of coaching. Everybody's going to go through it.
Yeah. So, I think that's kind of the way that we see it. And I think it's important to be honest. I think this podcast is quite long because
already.
love to
And the
chat.
next topic is so interesting, but we can talk about that in the next episode.
We can do one more and then we can cut it there.
Okay.
Because obviously we did do a bit of like an introduction in this one. But this is quite a big thing, and I think Annabel has been exposed to this quite a lot, especially the environment she's lived in, seeing this with other people. So different cultures are different, right? And Annabel has spent a lot of time in India. So I know a lot of our listeners are actually from India. So I think this is a great question for us to talk about. And that's how to deal with families who don't get bodybuilding, don't get this whole fitness, taking pictures of your physique, posting them on Instagram. I think it's not yes, it is a culture thing, but I also think it's kind of everywhere in the world.
It's pretty much everywhere because I'm not Indian, but my dad doesn't accept what I do.
Yeah.
He hates it. He does not like the fact that his daughter is going to go on stage, and he even imitates in a little bikini with poses. Really? They just don't get it. But the most frustrating part is that he doesn't even try to understand. Even if I were to try to explain, it would just like go in here, out here, because he's so fixated on this idea of bodybuilding, and he doesn't understand. He doesn't like it. Yeah. So it's not only, it's probably stronger in the Indian culture because they are more conservative, right? And there is still this like guys over girl, gymming is more for guys, girls should stay at home, girls shouldn't get into lifting weights. Just now, like over the last 2 years in India, I saw that girls started lifting weights and going to the gym.
Yeah.
And getting into competitions and things like that. Yeah.
So I think the first thing to understand is that you're not alone and that many people have this. And I think what's funny is I've realized that whenever I look at families, there's always only one person who lifts a lot of the time,
That's true. Yeah.
So it makes it hard for you because you can't talk to anyone about it. I know for me, even personally, like having a coach is nice because they care about my progress and I can share it with them. Or if you have a partner who understands, you can obviously talk to them about it.
Right.
But it is very difficult. Like both Annabelle and I have been in that situation.
I mean, same thing with your family, right, Sammy?
Yeah. So my dad has actually only recently started to support it. And when I first got into fitness, I'm lucky to have a mother who has always been quite active. She's gone running. She used to do acrobatics growing up. So she actually really liked the fact that I was getting into the gym. And she knew I had a tough time, getting bullied in school and things like that.
Growing up, yeah.
So she was really supportive. But my dad, when he heard, I didn't even tell him that I'm going to compete. And my mom told him because I won my competition. And she's like, you need to congratulate your daughter.
Right.
Won. And he's like, won what? Like he had no idea what this was about. And it's really sad because it's only later, like a year later, when he goes, oh, well, not every father can have a daughter who's won a competition, So it's like to him, only because I was successful did he then start to kind of look at it in a different light. And I'm like, that's not really, that's not really nice.
I'm waiting for that. You know what? I kind of envy just a little bit. Like Angelica, for example, do you see how her dad is like so cute, taking pictures with her and like training with her?
Yeah.
I wish I had that, but
I think it takes time because in my case, like even, I took like your dad, my dad is very like, this job you have to be like, but I decided to take my own route and become self-employed. And obviously when he first heard about that, he's like, are you mad? Like, what the hell are you doing? And like now he literally messages me saying how he's so proud of me. He's so sorry that like, so I think it's time, and actions speak louder than words. And I think, you just have to remember that your parents, the reason they are the way they are is because they care about you. And obviously if
it never comes from a bad place.
It's because they care about you. And they, unfortunately, the way fitness is kind of perceived to the everyday person is like it's more of a leisure and it's like a hobby. It's not something that can be a job. It's not something that should take up a lot of time. And you know, if you look at like 20 years back, it wasn't as popular as it's now. So the best way, like, to answer the question and go into kind of methods of how to get your family to accept, I think trying to explain to them and show 100%. Them and have them, you know, witness from day one throughout the whole journey and where that's taking you. I know with some of my clients, they just do it anyway. They just go, you know what, they don't accept it. So rather than me being upset over the fact that they don't accept me, I'm going to do what makes me happy.
Yeah, and they'll work around it. I'm with this one client right now. Crazy situation. Very typical, like Indian, lives with the in-laws. She just recently got married. She can't. This is quite absurd, but she can't cook when she's on her period. They will not allow her in the kitchen because it's like dirty.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
That's crazy.
So that it's not her home, like it's where her husband grew up, so he's comfortable there. But she's like, I don't even feel comfortable to cook. They make fun of me for taking away. They say that it's bad. And the only place that I can work out is my room. And I'm like, this is a lot of information to handle. But see, someone like that still is paying for coaching because she's like, I want to work around this. I just need you. I need someone to help me.
Yeah.
Crazy. So where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah, I'm just trying to like throw out the worst example there, or like the worst scenario.
Yeah. So yeah. I think the main thing is obviously to understand that there are so many people in this position. And if you're someone who's an adult, you know, you need to understand that like you can make your own decisions. And yes, if you are really close to your family and you do respect their opinions, that's fine. But they need to respect the fact that, you know, you have your own hobby.
Of course.
So I think there needs to just be a compromise, and a lot of people, I think, shy away. But I think if you just stand up to it and you have that conversation, you explain to them why you do it. I do completely understand why some families don't like when especially females post their progress pictures, and I have most of my clients don't want me to post their progress pictures, and you know what, I
have a lot as well.
Understand. And of course from my CV, from a business perspective, that's not ideal, but what's more important to me is obviously what my clients are getting out of the service.
Comfort.
Right?
Yeah.
So I completely understand that, and I think that that's not wrong in a way. But if you want to post your progress, you should be allowed to do that, you know? So the best way, like I said, is have that conversation with them, make them understand, you know, that this is your hobby. But I know it's easier said than done. That's for sure. Yeah.
So was that the last question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this was quite a long podcast. I'm not actually sure how long this was. But any suggestions, you know, anything you picked up on, maybe the way we spoke, I don't know, sound quality, whatever,
drop them in the comment section down below.
Leave them in the comment section below. And obviously we will then tailor the way that we film these. Maybe make them shorter or make them about a specific topic. I kind of like having it open like this.
I like it too.
Yeah. But we want to involve you guys into this, so the more feedback you give us, like, we don't get offended. We want this to be better, and we want this to be something that, you know, every week it can just be regular. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you've gotten this far,
if you made it to the end,
and we will catch you soon.